So, Josh, you are one of our intellectual property attorneys, and dealing with multimedia, music, and books, and movies, and all the things that we do at our firm. One of the things that comes up from, let's say, a client is, how do we legally sell NFTs? And then, are there any considerations? Are there things that we should be nervous about? So, I'm going to kind of, pretend that I'm the client today. So, let's pretend this was the situation. Let's say I've created an album. So, my project is an album and I want to sell my album as an NFT. And what I'm thinking is we could have people come in as investors. So if people were investing in the album, they put in some money, right? They buy an NFT and maybe they participate in the royalties. And so if we did that, is that legal? Was that something that we could do?
It's a great question. So it is legal depending on how we do it. There are some rules that govern in what they call investment contracts or more broadly securities. And we're going to want to make sure that whatever we're doing, we avoid running into problems with those rules. We're fully in line with them because if we're not fully in line with them, then we run the risk of SEC action. That's the Securities and Exchange Commission, and we don't
Yeah,
want their
so
attention.
So in other words, guys, we're talking about like the federal government. So as soon as someone's like, "Hey, I want you to invest and become an investor," all of a sudden for us lawyers, our spidey sense goes off. We go, "Okay, so likely this may fall within SEC, so Securities and Exchange rules, which is the federal government, and bad things can happen if you break these rules." So let's go through the analysis. How do we do this?
First, to back up a little bit, these rules are really old. This test was came in the 1940s. 1946 is the case that we get the test that's going to determine whether or not an NFT is a security, which is crazy because as you and I know, NFTs didn't exist until, the past decade, right?
Well, and
So,
and let's be clear. So when you say a security, right, for me, right, I'm the client, I
mhm.
have no idea what that means. What's a security?
Yeah, so a security can be a lot of different things, and I'm going to share my screen here with some SEC guidance. This is from the SEC website, so you can
Okay.
see framework for investment contract. Now, a security is really broad and it includes an investment contract. You can see it lists some other things here, stocks, bonds, and it really is an instrument where you stand to gain something from it. So it's really broad, but for NFTs, we want to focus on investment contracts because that's what they are most commonly treated as. So we
Okay.
see here the framework for the investment contracts and digital assets. That's what they mean by NFTs.
So another instance where this comes up a lot is our clients who do films, right? So we have a filmmaker who comes to us and they go, "I found an investor, and the investor is going to pay the $1 million to help me make the movie, and I want to come up with an investment document." And so this is where we go, well, this kind of sounds like it could be a security because you are giving something in anticipation of getting something, right? And I think that's kind of roughly what you said. So we go, all right, well, if it's security, again, the analysis changes and we want to make sure you're complying with federal rules. So this is what you're about to walk us through. This is the test of like trying to figure out, is this like an investment thing? So let's go through it.
Yes, and it's important because if it is an investment, they're going to require you to register, and that's a whole other process. So let's walk through a little bit what they are actually evaluating here. For background context, this case is SEC versus Howie, and we're going to walk through the framework that this test provides for analyzing is something or isn't something a security. Remember when this test came out, NFTs didn't exist. So we're going to have to use a little bit of reading between the lines. And the SEC is doing that. So we're going to dive in a little bit more later on what they actually do. The first thing here is really simple, the investment of money. Are you putting money into it? Are you putting money in with the expectation of getting more, and we get to that later here. The second one is a common enterprise. Now, I'm brushing through these two really quickly because these prongs are almost always met. It's really easy to say someone invested some money when they gave money for it. It's really easy for the SEC anyway to say that it's a common enterprise when everyone is investing, if you use that word, in the same thing.
Okay.
So those two prongs are readily met most of the time. But we have this last one down here where it gets a little bit more complicated. The reasonable expectation of profits derived from efforts of others. So this is really where you get to the core of the investment contract because you're looking at, are you getting money from your investment? Is there some profit expectation? Are you being sold the profit expectation? And how is it being marketed? And all of these things are going to play into this last prong of the test.
Okay, so then to recap, the first two prongs make sense. Someone's giving you money. It doesn't mean it's automatically a security. And we're going to go back to our framework of buying and selling NFTs. Okay, but first two prongs, you said pretty easy. A lot of people are going to do this. It doesn't make it a security. But this third one on, is there a reasonable expectation of profits, right? That are going to come from the thing. So, like in the movie analogy, and just being like, if you're promised, hey, if you invest your $1 million, I promise you're going to make at least 20% on top of your money back. Walks like a duck, sounds like a duck. It's probably going to be a security.
Mhm.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
That's right, Crystal. So diving back into this last step, we have this last bit does a lot of work here from the efforts of others. Now, as we scrolling down, remember this is from the SEC document here. This is how their framework for analyzing it. They use this phrase active participant for someone who is increasing the value of it. So if there are active participants, then you are more likely to not be a security. You're someone who's doing the legwork. You're actually contributing to it. Whereas if you are not an active participant, then you are taking the investment profits and just treating it as an investment. And that's really more of what a security is. So
Okay, all right. So then applying it to our fact pattern with the NFT, if I put my album out for, sale, and let's say I'm selling it for, I don't know, we'd sell the album at $50. $50 per NFT. What does that mean in the analysis of the active participant?
So we want to differentiate when we're talking about media from the NFT itself and the media, whether that's the film we were talking about earlier, your album that you were thinking about making an NFT for, and the NFT itself. When we're talking about the investment as a security, we're talking about the NFT is what we don't want to be an investment or security. But we're looking at other things like we expect profits from films, we expect profits from the music. These don't inherently make them securities. So what we do with the $50 that is going paid for the NFT, that can guarantee you all sorts of things. That can be associated with all sorts of rights, whether that's some form of royalty revenue stream, whether
Okay.
that's some type of licensing agreement. Maybe you're allowed to do certain things, or the people, let's say you make an album NFT and you want the people to be able to do certain things with the album, you can associate that with the NFT. Those are all independent from what the NFT is itself and the value of the NFT and the resale value of that, which is where a lot of these projects run into problems.
Okay, so let me make sure I understand. So you're saying with the active participant, if we have the buyer doing stuff, that may make them an active participant, and that may make it so that this is not considered a security, which is what we're trying to avoid. Is that right?
That's right, Crystal. We're
Okay.
trying to avoid being a security, and we're doing that by requiring the owner to have some participation so that if they do make a profit off this, we aren't treating it as an investment because they did work. They weren't just taking the reliance on others. They were getting profit from the work that they put into it.
Okay. All right. So with my album, and who's going to buy the album? It's probably going to be the fan, right? So if the fans are going to buy the album, what are the kind of things that you would suggest that I have the fans do to then become active participants?
Oh, that could be all sorts of things. But looking at it from the songs, a lot of what we're doing is promoting the songs. You want to get the songs out there, and that will affect the royalties of the song itself. So when we're looking at promoting an album, what are the things that we normally think of doing? We'll talk about social media advertising. So maybe something like posting on your social media. If you purchase the NFT, for example, and let's say you want to have royalties associated with it, you could make that conditional on sharing it on social media platforms.
Okay. Well, and look, and that's even, good marketing, right? So,
Mhm.
for me as the artist, the creator, and to be like, hey, not only are you going to help me promote, but it really makes people feel involved, right? It's was almost like with Kickstarter, right? So you like, you give us some money, you get a little something, and then, we all get to participate in this great creative thing. So I think that there's even good ancillary, benefits of doing it this way. Okay. So is there anything else that goes into the analysis of I'm going to sell my album, it's an NFT, we want to make sure that it's not considered a security. Anything else that we should think about?
Well, you're going to want to make sure that the way that you're marketing the album NFT, the way that you're promoting it to people is not like a security. And by that, we really just mean not an investment contract. So people aren't buying your NFT as an investment itself, right? There might be some profit associated if they're getting some of the royalties, but they're not buying the NFT just so that they can hold on to it and sell it for more money later.
Okay. Now, you mentioned an investment contract, right? So then a logical question as a client, I'm going to say, well, are there contracts for NFTs and how do they work?
Yes. So with NFTs, it's actually a little bit more complicated than just the contracts. We have two parts to it. We have the smart contract, which kind of governs how the NFT actually works. That's all going to be a part of the NFT itself. It's all going to be on what they call the blockchain, which is where the NFT lives. But there's the second part when you have these rights associated with it, because under our copyright laws and other laws, the NFTs do not have the power to execute these agreements for people. It's not automatic. So we need to have something akin to terms of service. So
Okay.
for the NFT that will show what rights do people actually have with it.
Okay. So does that mean you're going to draft me a separate document that I sign with my fans who are buying the NFTs?
Yes, so there will be the two parts to it. We have the smart contract that actually has the NFT, and then the separate contract that's going to be kind of the NFT purchase agreement, that these are the terms that someone who is buying the NFT signs on for. And this will govern, for example, what does it mean for them to be an active participant? What royalties are they entitled to? And how do they go about getting those?
Okay. So what you're telling me at least is that in order to sell my album as an NFT, I'm going to be okay. It sounds like as long as I kind of follow some of these steps, I include these terms, make the fans active participants, that at least puts me in this category where it probably is not a security. Fair enough?
Yes, yeah, that sounds like everything I'm saying.
Okay. And so, and if even if it's not an NFT, we're putting it in kind of the NFT land, but let's even take the movie example, right? So if we're talking with, someone and we go, well, if you're a filmmaker and you're going to take all the money, and we don't want this to be a security because, quite frankly, I'll convert for a sec to the owner of the law firm, right? Which I am. Typically when we quote clients, I go, if you go the traditional route where you are doing investment paperwork, it is significantly more expensive. And it's not just our firm, it's all law firms. And it's because there's so much more requirements and paperwork and filings and all kinds of things that need to happen. And so we always want to, look at, is there kind of a workaround to save you some money? That's why, we A, wanted to do this, and B, just to kind of give some guidance. And so I would say, Josh, is this the kind of thing that we can help people with if they need assistance with their NFTs or their investment, non-investment projects?
Yes, this is something we can definitely help with. There are a lot of intricacies when you're dealing with this SEC regulations because, again, like I've said before, these were rules passed in the 40s, and we're like almost 100 years later, and we have to live with those regulations. So it's a little bit tricky to navigate. We're also looking at what they actually do and who they have been kind of cracking down against, what NFTs have been considered securities. And since we keep up to date with all of that, we have a pretty good idea of how we can best navigate and get things cleared.
Yeah, and I'll share this that we always have a very robust network of other attorneys that we also work with, and one of my friends, he's 20 plus years in doing securities work in particular, and he has this horror story that he shared with me one time, and he goes, well, he got sued. He got sued by the SEC because they alleged that he had failed to provide all the needed paperwork. It's not that he defrauded anyone or that he didn't pay or didn't provide statements or anything like that, but he had failed to disclose one really important document. Turned out he, in fact, did fail to disclose that document, not intentionally. There was nothing, no ill will, nothing like that. He just made a mistake. And they were so severe in that what they did is they told him basically an order saying, you do not get to do any more investments ever. So very, very harsh consequences. And then, we see stuff like, you get thrown in jail, you get massive penalties. So it's a big deal. And that's why we want to make sure to, give the proper guidance to clients.
Yes, there are a lot of penalties that the SEC can throw at you, and even before you get to the penalty stage, they're going to make your life very difficult if they want to. This is just one example of the SEC's cracking down on media and entertainment company. We have impact theory, and we're on the SEC website again. You can see this is one of their own press releases. So impact theory was doing kind of what we have been discussing today the wrong way. They were selling NFTs. They called them founders keys, and they had three different tiers, and they were selling it as an investment. So they encourage potential investors to view the purchase of a founder's key as an investment into the business. This is what we don't want to see. We don't want you out there telling people that if they buy your NFTs, that they're investing in your business, because that's what's going to attract SEC attention. And one other thing that we want to see here is they got $30 million from these investors, which is great for them, but they were ordered to pay $6.1 million dollars,
Mm,
and that doesn't include the interest and other penalties as well. So
wow.
the fines are substantial if you do run afoul of their rules here, and that's something we like to help people avoid.
So we hope you guys found this helpful. Be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and if you're looking for assistance on all things NFT, investment, non-investment, be sure to contact Delgado Entertainment Law. We look forward to hearing from you.